I met Thomas a few times at Carolyn's, a couple of times at Elon University. One time he was talking about education, and he said, I was at Chapel Hill, you know, and they asked me a good question. They asked me, what should education in the 21st century look like? And I said to them, that's easy. Just think of all the things we have done in the 20th century and do the opposite. So Carolyn is looking at what it might be like to do the opposite with children. I mean, let them outdoors. The last children in the woods, right? Let them care for things beyond themselves. We know that at any age, whether you're a child or whether you are an elderly person, you will flourish if you care for things beyond yourself, plants, animals, other people. It's coming out of that spell of separateness. That's what Thomas, I think, is calling us to in the ways that we can see it, in the ways that we can speak it. The earth is the primary physician. We're talking about healthcare. We do not have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sick system in this country, a sick care system in this country. We don't have a wellness approach. And we are so afraid of death. Ivan Illich says every culture determines its medicine by how it looks at death. We look at death as an enemy, and in consequence, we spend billions of dollars to fend off death, even when it comes appropriately and even when it comes mercifully. The earth is the primary lawgiver. Another thing that Thomas said just blew me away. He said, you know, the U.S. Constitution, who criticizes the U.S. Constitution? I mean, the U.S. Constitution, Jefferson and Madison and oh my gosh, the greatness of our country. And it really is quite an amazing document. And Thomas said, well, it's pretty good when it comes to people, but it's really a disaster when it comes to animals and plants and minerals. And we have to broaden our way of trying to understand how they fit and what is owed to them. Lincoln said, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish for this earth. What we are seeing now is a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations, which is despoiling the earth. So what would a government look like that took seriously the charge of the Earth Charter? One of the great movements, which again flickers. It's hard for us to pay attention. We have cultural attention deficit. We only remember things for a couple of minutes, if that. That's why we do all these things with children, and even through colleges and universities. We do these things with children to keep them occupied, because we can't have them doing anything that takes too long, because they shift channels. What's the relationship of human beings to the greater community of life? A government that seriously took the relationship of humans to the wider community of life, seriously as the basis for its policies. What's the relationship of humans to humans in the society? Perennial questions of justice and peace and reconciliation. Who was it? Chaplain at Yale, Greg, was William Sloane Coffin. He came to Elon a long time ago. He said, you want to know what justice is? He says, justice is sorting out what belongs to whom and giving it back. That should be on our plate as well, don't you think? And lastly, the relationship between this generation and future generations. The earth is the primary commercial enterprise, says Thomas. Now, it's really interesting. We've had, what, 40, 50 years of the ecological awareness since we began to move on the moon. I read recently that the child was interviewing an older person, and she said, "What was the greatest event in your lifetime?" And the man said, "I think it was the moonwalk." She said, "You mean that dance?" All right. The Earth is the primary commercial enterprise. Not one business school in this country, my beloved university, Elon University, Harvard University, Wharton School of Business, none of them have closed their doors, said we've got to shut down for 3, 4, 5 months and figure out the next step for capitalism instead of whatever it is, 6.2, 6.8. None of them have done that. It's business as usual, and if you do the same thing over again and hope to get different results, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of insanity. The Earth is the primary revelation of the divine. Peter Russell, in a wonderful video, says that, perhaps the Earth itself is a symbol of the divine. Before we had things that were simple, could be drawn with a stick on the sand, but now, maybe we're at a stage where the very complexity, the iconic image of the Earth from space is a symbol of the divine. And yet, whether we're talking of East and West, it is so difficult for the religious communities to really learn from the Earth, to sit at the, at the footsteps of all of the creatures at each day that are teaching us, attempting to teach us. Thomas was a prophetic voice, and I give you 3 practices that you can take home this evening. The first practice is from Thomas's own tradition. Conversion in Thomas's tradition, the Catholic tradition, is a matter of confession, contrition, and amendment. That is, you say aloud what we are doing, you mind it with a contrite heart, and you set about each day in little ways to reverse that. Second, what I've told you of the Navajos, that we stand between the generations. And a practice before we do anything is to come to ourselves and to ask ourselves, will this honor the ancestors? And will this serve the children? And finally, one of the most significant gifts of Thomas was the example that he gave us of facing the possibility of human extinction, and that is what we're facing, and not losing hope. It's a third practice, I think, the practice of gratitude and contrition, to invoke with hope a greater mystery than us, what Dante called the love that moves the sun and the other stars. So may we participate in that love for the sake of all beings. Thank you for your attention.